Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to r/ProRevenge, where you'll hear stories about people getting what they deserve. Guys, I hope you're having an awesome day today. And listen, in this episode, there's going to be 3 satisfying revenge stories. So sit back, relax, put your feet up, and enjoy the ride. And do hit that subscribe button, my friends, for future tales. Now, by North American standards, our house is old. It's really old. It's older than the town. Hell, it's older than Confederation. The house was built by a merchant from the area like 200 years ago. It's old. And with age comes a very big property line. And apart from a couple of adjustments here and there to account for infrastructure and housing development, it's basically unchanged from 100 years ago. Now, it rarely ever comes up here, but in any dispute regarding property lines, the official town plan takes precedent, and our property line happens to cross over onto our neighbor's property. This will be important for later. But for now, the 2 major players in this tale are my dad and the entitled neighbor, who we will call Lumpy. Now, Lumpy is just the worst. He ran an illegal chop shop in his backyard and seemed to be deathly afraid of trees. Another thing to note is that he always took a 2-week-long vacation in the summer to go see his family, and it was always at the end of July. This part is also important later. So at the time, he was in government oversight, but before that, he was in the Department of Justice, and his major responsibilities included training Crown attorneys. This included the Attorney General. In the pecking order, Dad was actually pretty low, but the Crown knew him and respected him, and they were keenly aware that Dad knew the law inside and out, and if there was anything even remotely resembling a legal dispute, Dad was almost always in the right with his argument. Now we begin the tale. Now, the line between our yard and Lumpy's yard was pretty clear. Our side was grass, lilies, shrubs, and trees, and his side was a gravel driveway. Now, before the incident, there was a large Manitoba maple tree growing there. It was very old, but grew in such a way that it blocked just enough sunlight to have a pleasant level of light coming in the window. We had no intentions of ever removing it. Maybe trim it a little if it got too close to the windows, but that was it. However, some lower branches were sagging onto Lumpy's driveway, so he asked if we could cut some of the lower branches so that his car would not get damaged when he drove in and out. Now, it was a fair enough request, and he did ask permission first, so we told him to get a landscaper and a quote, because we weren't going to let Lumpy do it, and we were okay paying for it. So a couple days later, my family and I were out on vacation, and when we got back, Lumpy comes over and tells us to not worry about the landscaper because he took care of it. Now, red flags were waving at that statement, so we went and checked the tree. The bastard cut the entire tree down, and then, to add insult to injury, he painted the stump with some sort of weird gray stuff. Now, we don't know what it was, but whatever it was, nothing ever grew on that stump again, not even fungi. So we were understandably pissed off, but unfortunately there's nothing we can do about it because there's no proof of him cutting it down. So now we've got a stump that was once a beautiful tree, a smug entitled neighbor, and seemingly no course of action to take. My dad, of course, did not accept that scenario, and he had a plan. So, as I said earlier, Dad knows the law inside and out, so he began to make a plan. He made a few phone calls to the town's civil architect, a couple of inspectors, the local landscaper that Lumpy was going to get a quote from, and a contractor. He went to City Hall and got a copy of the official town plan, which, remember, is the final word on the property lines. He had everything arranged, and now he began to wait. So, the revenge. Like clockwork, Lumpy goes on vacation and the plan was executed. Over the course of 2 weeks, we expanded. We rebuilt our fence to new dimensions, rearranged the shrubs, dug up the gravel driveway and put fresh dirt and grass over it, and planted a weeping willow in a spot where, as it grew, it would always hang and shed into Lumpy's yard. And with the expanded fence and everything, Lumpy's driveway was now a small strip of pavement, maybe half a meter wide. With the new fence in place, that meant that a dying maple tree and a hawthorn was on our side. But because of how the trees grew, most of it was on Lumpy's side. The key point is that the placement of the trunk dictates whose property it's on. So it's our tree that he cannot touch, no matter how annoying or destructive it is. Also, with the new dimensions, the chop shop he was running was now on our side of the fence. But because it was illegal, it was just scrap metal, as far as the law was concerned. So we sold it to a local scrapyard. By the time Lumpy came back, our yard had expanded almost 3 meters into his yard. And waiting for him was Dad, the civil architect, and a lawyer with a stack of documents outlining in full detail that what they did according to where I lived was 100% legal, and there wasn't a damn thing he could do about it. So, the aftermath. Lumpy apparently tried to press charges, something along the lines of trespassing or destruction of property, or something ridiculous like that. I had moved out of town at the time, so I don't know for sure what happened, but I like to think the judge just threw the case out. Like I said, everything was above board and completely legal. Okay, my friends, so let me get this straight. Lumpy could have gotten rid of the branches that were annoying him for free, paid for by Opie's dad. But instead, while the family was gone, he took it upon himself to most likely hire a company to cut the tree down, pay for the removal, and in the end lost pretty much all of his land. I'll never understand the thought process of some people, my friends. Their revenge is absolutely incredible. So about 8 years ago, I'm selling a used car. The engine light was on, the AC needed recharging, and the fuel pump or something was out. So I go to my local trusted sales site. The ad goes up with a few pictures and the words, "I work weird hours, so I might not be able to accept a phone call. Please only text me." So a few days in, I get the pretty standard text saying, "Hi, I'm Matt. Is your car still for sale?" Matt isn't his real name, but you get the idea. So I text back that it is. A standard text about the price, why is the engine light on, who did you get the quote from, so on and so forth. The next day, I get a text from him saying, "Are you gonna take all your junk out of the car before you sell it to me, or is that my job?" Now, I'm thinking, unwarranted hostility? Really? Come on, man. Now, he's not the only interested party, so I text him back, "I'm not selling the car to you, so don't worry about it." Now, I never said that I would sell to him, and he never asked if he was the only interested party, and others were arranging test drives already. I didn't need him and his less than full price partial commitment. And the stuff he was complaining about is 3 textbooks and a bag that I keep clothes in. 4 things. Now, the guy did not like to take no for an answer, and starts calling and texting about how my car's paint is peeling, which is true, but the pictures and description said so, and how dare I ask so much for a piece of junk car? I was only asking $1,000. Now, I started to reply for a time, telling him that he wasn't gonna get the car, that I had other interested buyers, so he didn't need to worry about it. And then things get personal. Now, the site did give you the option to link Facebook, so you could post at both places at the same time. So I had. Now, I hadn't anticipated that he would be able to find my info through the website's post, and find my name, my location, pictures of my kid. So surprise me, he did. The guy starts texting about how I should be ashamed of myself for saying no to him, a muscular dude, as I was a quite round female. He included a picture in one text, and he wasn't the muscular built dude that he claimed to be. He looked like a beanpole with 2 ab muscles, so I don't know what he's thinking. He then asked me if I knew anything about cars or if I made the post while I was on my period, so I didn't know what I was talking about. He also texted that I should be lucky that I was married, or else he would come to my house and, quote, "show me how a real man handles a woman." So some small side info. Since I was in college at the time and needed a more flexible schedule, I worked as a school crossing guard. Every 2 weeks or so, we'd go and assign our time cards in order to get paid. Now, the crossing guard gig was a hire through my police department. Not all crossing guard gigs are the same, but this one was. During one of these visits to the office, I was using my phone while I was waiting for my boss to get to me, my name being very low in the alphabet. I also hadn't blocked the dude, as it hadn't been long since this started, and I was hoping it would just fizzle on its own. I didn't check my phone in class, turning it off to avoid ADHDing the entire day, and I was often flooded with several hours of text at once. When I turned my phone on, what I saw on my phone drove me over the cliff. The guy had texted me pictures that I had posted on Facebook about my 8-year-old son. He had just majorly crossed the line. So the cleanest version of his text included things like, "Your kid is as ugly as you are. I hope you don't plan on him leaving home to get a wife anytime soon." And how a smudge of dirt on his face from the day at the zoo looked like I beat him. Now I'm thinking, I didn't sell you a car and you're taking out your rage by threatening to assault me and accuse me of beating my son? Oh, hell no. Now apparently I was loud when I said what I did because my boss steps right over me, stands next to me, and asked what was wrong. Great person. 10 out of 10 would boss again. I told her that I was getting abusive texts from this random guy that tried to buy my car. I told her I was about to erase the text and block him, but she's like, "No, wait, don't do that. Let me see your phone." I was so happy that I didn't delete them because this next part still makes my heart sore. I offer and she takes my phone, reading all the sick and vile things he texted me. She tells me to wait until she's cleared the lobby of the other crossing guards, so I do. She then tells me to follow her behind the security doors at the police station, still having my phone. Now, at this point, I don't know what's happening, but I liked and I trusted her, so I do. I follow her back to the office where she works on her computer, referring my phone on occasion. She asked if all I have is the phone number or if I got his name too. I tell her I only got a first name and scroll to the text where he introduced himself. A semi-uncomfortable amount of time later, she hands me back my phone. Something to mention, my boss isn't just administrative. I didn't know at the time, but she's a full-on lieutenant with the police department. She came up the ranks from patrol, moving to a position where she exclusively investigated child and elder abuse complaints before moving into her current desk position. Needless to say, she did not take people threatening harm to kids lightly. Because I hadn't blocked the number, I still had the text messages with the dude's name. And she had used it to cross-search him and the phone number. So long story short, she knew exactly who he was. She says not to worry, but don't delete or respond to his texts anymore, and if it got worse, I should call her or 911 right away. Now, unconcerned and happy she had the situation in hand, I leave to go back to class. When I'm back to the office, I sign my next time card 2 weeks later. I had several unread texts from the guy. I had filtered them so I didn't see them pop up and I hadn't read them. I had sold the car for full asking price, and all but forgotten the entire situation. My boss tells me to wait for her again as she had something else for me to sign, and I again return to her office. Now, she briefly explains that what she had for me was an actionable complaint that she needed me to sign from my issue 2 weeks ago. Now, she must have seen my face because she tells me to not worry and that she'll tell me what's going on after I sign the form. So I do, and dear Reddit, this is the best situation that anybody could have asked for. The phone number was tied to many people, as the provider was known for cheap cell service for those that were desperate for a way to contact people, services, and employment. But with the name Matt, and again, it's a fake name, she was able to find out who was messing with me. She then got a driver's license, which led to an address, which led to a police report for possible domestic violence. Fall down the rabbit hole some more, and you find out that this dude had 5 kids by 4 women, and he was in arrears on his child support to them all. The guy hadn't been paying for 10 plus years and was in the neighborhood of 30 to 50 grand, if memory serves. But somehow, just 2 weeks ago, the guy requested a title transfer for quite the fancy old car. Now, I don't remember the kind, but think high-end car show and massive insurance premiums. Being so far in arrears meant that my boss was able to place a seizure order on the car so it could be sold to pay back the child support. One of the baby mamas lives in a state where fleeing child support meant that you could have a warrant issued for your arrest. When she called the interested parties in the state to see if they wanted her to execute the arrest warrant, they said yes, with much haste. So one conversation later, and my boss was able to determine that he was using the brother's social security number on his employment forms to avoid child support garnishments. This is all sorts of illegal, so she notified the guy's HR department so it could be corrected. They informed her that he would be fired for fraudulently submitting false documents. She then told me that about 4 days ago, she had executed the warrant on the dude for felony child abandonment, and that the state he was to be held for was already en route to pick him up. It carries an 8 to 12 year sentence, and he still had to pay back his child support. Now, I could have dealt with the comment, and I could have dealt with the not taking no for an answer, even dealt with the cyberstalking. A little. But when your twisted mind okays you to bring my kid into the picture, you done crossed the line. If that guy would have stopped at no, he wouldn't be in jail right now. My friends, OP is completely right. When someone's kids get brought into something for no apparent reason, Mama Bear's gotta go scorched earth. Seriously though, talk about nuking his own life. Listen guys, I've come across my fair share of aggressive people on Craigslist. I mean, who hasn't? But this guy just took it to another level. Over $1,000 car. I hope you enjoyed jail over $1,000 car. So my friends, the moral of the story is don't threaten people over text. And if someone doesn't want to sell you what they're selling, you say, okay, thanks for your time. And move on. Move on, please. So back in August, my cousin and her baby daddy begged my parents to move into our old house. Now, my parents' home was currently on the market to be sold, as they can't afford to pay the mortgage on that one and the one we're currently living in. But we figured if my cousin could pay at least half the utilities and half the rent, which is only $400 a month, then we could make it work. Her baby daddy had a job lined up, so it seemed all good. 3 weeks in and many phone calls later, they won't even switch utilities into their name. We haven't seen a dime, and the baby daddy quit his job after 1 day and refused to find another one. They've also had 3 paychecks come in from previous jobs, which is about $800, and refused to pay my folks. My parents then tell them that it's not working, and they have 2 weeks to get out. After a week, power company tells us that utilities are gonna be snapped. So we're thinking, go ahead and snap them. We can't pay, and cousin and baby daddy won't pay. So they did, and cousin calls them, screaming obscenities at them, yet still refusing to pay or put them in her name. A week later, they finally move out. My parents go to check up on the place and call me 20 minutes later. They absolutely trashed the place. Garbage upon garbage everywhere. They also smashed both of the bathroom mirrors, ripped the sink off the wall, left hundreds of broken eggs all over the floor, and broke a 100-year-old banister. Obviously, the cops were called. Now, I drive 20 minutes there and survey the damage myself. I meet up with the police officer who, incidentally, is a classmate of mine, which is a pleasant surprise and might motivate him a little more, as I've helped him several times in the past, and we also get along really well. We then do a bit of cleanup with the help of our old neighbors and move on for the day. I then check Facebook and find a nasty multi-paragraph note directed towards my immediate family. It included snippets about how she wishes that we would die a slow, painful death, how we have filthy housekeeping habits, and how we're socially unacceptable, and karma will get us. She also went on a rant about how the whole family hates us, called our family a ton of names, and said that our dead grandma would be so ashamed. Now, usually I stay out of Facebook drama, but she attacked me, my parents, and my sisters, so I responded with an even longer diatribe, giving the facts this time, and telling her all her shortcomings and essentially telling her to grow up. And naturally, she did block me, but I screenshot it all and posted it onto my Facebook, where most of our extended family saw it and saw the pictures that I posted of the damage. Several of my friends, family members, even her aunt from her father's side, PM'd me, calling her out on her lies, which I didn't ask for them to do. My phone did not stop buzzing for 2 days, filled with non-stop support. The social media reputation that she spent years building crumbled down in hours. She lost so many friends and had to set everything to private because people won't stop harassing her. Now, obviously, the social media revenge is small potatoes compared to the felony charges that her and her baby daddy are up against, which means that they'll lose their kids and their pets, which will also be a blessing as they mistreat both. It made me feel better. I even got reconnected with some old friends that I haven't talked to in a while, including one who was a mutual friend of my cousin and I, and now we got a cross-country trip planned because of that. Some people literally have no respect for others who go out of their way to help them, and this couple deserved everything they got. Like, what were they expecting OP's family to do? Let them live there for free when they can barely afford the mortgage themselves? And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /ProRevenge. Guys, if you enjoyed the stories today, do hit that subscribe button. And if you missed the last episode of our /ProRevenge, I will link it right here. OP's wife cheats on him with his best friend, who happens to be their neighbor. Guys, check it out if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you.